Fun facts about Robert McCall, the vigilante in the movie The Equalizer. A man with oct. Looking very fit for a man his age, very neat, detailed, focused, agile, intelligent, and at the same time mastering high-level martial arts. In fact, this does not mean that Robert McCall has no weaknesses. One of his weaknesses is having a tendency to obsessive-compulsive disorder oct. People with oct will always feel anxious about something and tend to repeat it over and over again. In Robert McCall's case, he always made sure that things were always neatly arranged in their places. For example, he is always diligent in cleaning his shoes, folding his napkins neatly, aligning the back of his book with the edge of the table, and rearranging things on his table, even other tables. This disease, even though it was not serious for him, made him always feel anxious about many things, because he made sure everything happened in an orderly manner. Very calculating. Robert McCall has very high intuition, especially in assessing someone and calculating enemy movements. In each of his actions, Robert McCall rarely got seriously injured or made other mistakes. This cannot be separated from Robert McCall's past. Before retiring and working in a hardware store, McCall was a gunnery sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, then a secret agent for the DEA. When he met a woman named Vivian, he fell in love and later married her. In order for their lives to be safe, McCall faked his death via a car explosion. Even though he is no longer serving at DEA, he still has a number of competencies of a reliable agent. Not only a matter of strength, the dexterity of his mind is still being honed. McCall is known to be able to identify a person's identity from their body language, predict an opponent's movements, and even understand what someone is going to do just by observing them. An example of his intelligence in reading people is when he reads Teddy, a reliable mercenary who is sent to investigate who is busting a prostitution ring in Boston. From data about Teddy's childhood, he was able to read what kind of person Teddy was and why he became the cold-blooded killer he is today. Respect women. Robert McCall's adventures in The Equalizer dated from his meeting with Alina at her favorite restaurant. McCall starts to get suspicious when he sees that Alina, who works as a prostitute, has bruises on her face. He also finds out the fact that Alina was beaten by her pimp who holds a prostitution ring from Russia. Out of compassion, McCall was willing to confront the pimp and even kill them all for abusing women. Unlike some other heroes who then become involved in temporary love with the women they help, this does not apply to McCall. McCall treats Alina and other friends who work as prostitutes in a good way, not taking advantage of their vulnerability at all. Therefore, it's really fun to see McCall's vigilante action. This hero doesn't act to look cool in front of women, and that makes him a real man. Aloof and loyal. In Boston, McCall lives alone. The same thing will also be seen in The Equalizer 3, where McCall is also alone to live quietly in southern Italy. Although surrounded by many good people, basically Robert McCall remains a loner. What made it happen? Robert McCall became a loner because of his very high insecurity. This cannot be separated from his previous identity as a member of the DEA who is always faced with unexpected threats. Almost every time he is confronted by criminals who do not hesitate to make him his opponent. In addition, he also still feels very sad over the death of his wife, Vivian, due to age and illness. Since Vivian's departure, Robert McCall has been somewhat obsessed with completing the books Vivian has yet to read. McCall is also a typical person who is loyal to his friends. There is no need to doubt his loyalty to Susan Plummer, his former boss at DEA, even after Plummer passed away. Have resources. Individually, Robert McCall is someone who is very talented. However, it must be admitted that he was brave enough to do all of his actions because he had sufficient resources, not just experience at DIA. When McCall faked his death, people at DIA and even his former colleagues thought he was really dead, except for Susan Plummer. Susan Plummer has a high position at DIA and is frequently turned to by McCall for help, even though he often reminded McCall of the many big risks that McCall would face. Plummer still helped McCall not only with information, but also with some backup, which meant that McCall didn't have to deal with the law when carrying out his actions. What will the excitement of high-moral vigilante Robert McCall's next action look like? After watching the end of his story in The Equalizer 2, you must be curious about what other adventures McCall will face in The Equalizer 3.